Hi everybody and welcome to today's video. This is going to be one of the most ambitious photographs that I've ever taken, and it's the first time that I'm going to attempt to make a composite photograph. Don't know how it's going to turn out. Let's crack on. So my idea for this is to have a photograph of Demi but with veils coming out from all different directions, and it's going to be technically difficult to do because obviously the veil is only so big, we only have one veil. So to make this final photograph look like I want it to in my head, we're going to have to do a composite, and that basically means I'm going to stitch together maybe 7, 8 or 9 different photographs where the veil is in different areas. So technically it's not going to be easy to do this. So to help with this video, as well as the amazing Demi, my friend Tony is going to be on wafting duty. She's going to be wafting the veil around. My job is going to be basically just to keep on pressing the shutter. So a little bit of like background to this photograph. We've obviously got Demi here. I'm going to be shooting this on my 16 to 35 2.8 lens. The reason for that is I want it to be a wide photograph, and we're going to use 3 speed lights, 2 of which are at the back. Those are both Godox V860s with a mag grid attached, and then I'm going to have 1 speed light at the front here. This is an AD200 with a MagSphere attached. We haven't shot the shot yet, so I'm not sure if this is going to happen, but my thought is that the base photographs is going to be this setup, but then at the end, once we've got basically a shot of the veil all around Demi, I'm then going to introduce the MagBox. That gives the best and softest light about here, and I'm going to take a shot of Demi with the MagBox in this area and then add that to the end shot, basically. So it's going to be a composite of a few different photographs, and one of them is going to have the MagBox in. But for now, we're going to get our base images, and those base images basically going to involve Demi staying in the same place and Tony lifting up the veil and wafting that veil in different directions. And at the end, when we stitch them all together, in theory, it should look epic. The one other thing that I've just realized I've forgotten to mention is the piece de resistance, and that is this over here, which is a smoke machine. So, let's see how we get on. Okay, so we're going to give this a go. Now, if you're watching this video, then it means that it worked. So at least the ending to this video should be good if you're actually watching it. What I'm doing here, again, I'm on my A9 on my Sony 16 to 35 2.8 lens. I'm a 1/4 of a second exposure. Now that's a very slow exposure, obviously. The reason for that is because I want to get a bit of movement in the veil. Because I'm a 1/4 of a second exposure, and more importantly, because I'm going to be stitching together these photographs at the end, you have to use a tripod to do this. If you do it handheld, it's going to be impossible to make the composite at the end. I'm at f7 and my ISO is at 100, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on Demi now, and then because I'm using back button focus, as long as I don't refocus now, the focus point will always be the same. And again, that's important, because if you try and refocus for each photograph, then you're not going to be able to stitch them together. The base photographs have to be exactly the same. We're basically now going to take a series of exposures on this side. So we're going to concentrate on the right hand side of the image for now. So in a second, Tony's going to very kindly press the smoke, and then we're just going to keep on taking photographs as Tony wafts the veil around. Okay, Demi, so you'll just be that same, thank you. Yeah, and go, Tony. So my job, now we've got the setup right, is actually very, very simple. I'm literally just pressing the shutter. We'll have to do that one more time, Tony. The other important thing is when we do this, Tony's got the hardest job, because when she throws the veil up, it's then important that she removes herself from the photograph as well. So a bit of exercise for her, easy for me. That was a good one, perfect. Thank you. Tony, if we can just have a couple where you're a little bit more around this side, if that's all right. I'm basically trying to paint, that's it, perfect. Yeah. That was good. Again, this is basically painting it, perfect. Yeah, good, good. Painting in the various areas with the veil. And then it's going to give us more options when we do the composite as to where we use. I feel a bit guilty doing this because I'm literally doing nothing. While Tony's running around like an idiot. Me and Demi have got this relatively easy at the moment. Perfect. thank you, Tony and Demi. We've got loads now on the right-hand side of the frame. We now need to do the exact opposite, so we're going to fill in the left-hand side of the frame, and then at the end, I'm going to just take a shot of Demi exactly as she is, but with the MagBox for the really nice light on her. So again, when you're ready, thank you, Tony. Yeah, we're nailing this side. These are going to be brilliant. I just hope this works as it does in my head, because it should be really cool, this photograph. That was a good one. Yeah. Excellent. Okay, so we've got all our base photographs now. Thank you both very much. So what I'm going to do now is, keeping the camera exactly where it is, I'm now going to light Demi with a softbox. So I'm going to take off the AD200. Again, remember that we can do this as long as the camera is not moving. So for this last exposure, as I say, I'm going to use the MagMod MagBox, which I absolutely love using because it gives beautiful light. And it's also extremely easy to use as well, as you'll see. So just pop this out, go that onto there. So we're just going to now add in the AD200. This is a really powerful speed light. We're not going to need anything like its power for this photograph. So the main thing with any light source, the closer the light source and the bigger the light source, the softer the light. So what I want to do now is put this softbox really close to Demi. Obviously it's going to be in the photograph, but it's not going to be in the final photograph. But as I say, the closer the light source, the softer the light will be. So I'm going to put it about here. Obviously at the moment this is going to be way too strong. It's on a quarter power from when we had it over here. We don't need anything like that now. So I'm going to go over here to my trigger, which is the X Pro, the Godox X Pro, and turn that power down to something like, I'm going to guess, I don't know, 164 power, I would imagine. Perfect, Demi. Just looking towards that light, if that's okay, please. Now, I nearly then press the focus button. I don't want to do that, because as soon as I press the focus button, if I lose the focus, it's not going to work right. So again, I'm not going to need to refocus. Let's just see what we get here. That's really nice. And just looking towards that light for me again, Demi, if that's okay, please. Perfect. Let's just zoom in. Yeah, so the light on Demi is really nice there. So what I'm doing here is just taking Demi in a couple of different poses. The pose has to be more or less the same, but see, that's really nice. This is giving me the option then. And then just looking at the light one more time, Demi, if that's okay, please. This is just giving me the option to choose which one I use in the final edit. Demi is sharp, so I think we are good. So massive thank you to Tony and Demi. So this is very much part one of this process. We've got all our images now. The next stage is going to be to go into Photoshop and merge them all together. So over to me in Photoshop. Thank you both very much. Yeah, thank you.
So hi everybody, I hope you enjoyed that video. That was very much part one of the process, and what I'm going to do now is show you how I'm going to blend all those images together in post. And I'm going to do that in 3 stages. First of all, I'm going to select the images in Photo Mechanic. I'm then going to blend them all in Photoshop. That will then leave me with one image, and I'm then going to do a little bit of further editing on that one image in Lightroom. Now, just a couple of things to bear in mind. Firstly, this is going to be a very quick run through on YouTube, but I do go through in much more detail exactly how I edited this photograph in my Patreon. So if you are interested in a much bigger walkthrough of exactly how I edited this image, please head on over to the Patreon. The link is in the description, and there you'll see a 20-minute walkthrough of how I edited this image. But I will show you enough in this version now so that you can do this yourself. Now, the other thing just to bear in mind is that I am by no means a Photoshop expert. I actually had to watch YouTube tutorials before I created this image to see how to do this. So bear in mind that this may not be the best way of doing it, but it is a way that works. So I just wanted to just put that out there. So first of all, I'm going to open up Photo Mechanic, and as you can see here, I've selected the images which I want to take into Photoshop already. And what I've done here is I've selected a series of images where the veil is in different places around Demi, and that I think is going to give me a really nice final image. So what I then do, we'll close Photo Mechanic now. So I'm now going to open up Photoshop. This is Photoshop version 22, so it's the most recent version. And we go to File, and then Scripts, and load files into stack. And what you want to then do is select all the images which you've just selected in Photo Mechanic. And what you'll now see is that Photoshop is going to load all these images as layers. So each image is going to be a separate layer within the photograph. So the first thing to say is that when you see the eye here, that means that you're looking at that layer. And by unticking that eye, you'll be looking at the layer underneath. So we want to first of all untick all these eyes. And when we do that and just the bottom one is selected, what we're basically looking at there is the bottom image. And this is the one which I'm going to use as the actual real Demi in the final version. So this version of Demi here will not change. You can see there is the MagBox, and I think the light on Demi's face there is really nice. So what I'm now going to do, this is the key thing, is if we select this image by clicking on the eye, we can now see that this is the veil here that I want to include over the top of the base image. So to do that, I'm going to click on the eye again, and now I'm going to make this layer mask down here. So if you're on a Mac, by holding down the Option key and then clicking on Layer Mask, it's going to basically make that layer invisible. But what we can then do is draw back in areas of that layer, and that's what I'm going to do over here by clicking on the paintbrush, and with a white brush, we can then go over, and it's basically exposing the area of this layer which we painted over. So that's going a little bit closer. Now, if you do this and you go over too far like this, what you then want to do is make the paintbrush color black, and then that's almost reversing that technique. So we then can reveal the original Demi that I wanted to use. And by going to and fro between the white brush and the black brush, we can get that layer looking really good. That's number one done already. Let's just choose another one. Let's choose one from maybe up here. Let's choose this one. So again, same process. Let's go to Layer Mask, hold down the Option key, and now let's go to our paintbrush. We want a white brush again. Let's make the brush go nice and big. You can see here why it's important the Demi did stay in the same place, because that makes it really easy to do this. You can see we've gone over a little bit. If we go over too much like this, again, we go to our brush, change it to black, and then just go back over to reveal like the original base layer. And that basically is how we do it. So what I'm now going to do is open up the actual version that I use to create the final image. Okay, so here we are. This is the final version which I use with all the layers. And as I show you these layers, you'll see what each one contained. And you can see here the areas of these particular images which I've revealed by using the white paintbrush. So exactly the same technique as I showed you just a second ago, just done multiple times. Now this is not a quick technique, it does take a while, but bear in mind that I'm only doing this for one image. I'm not going to do this on lots of images, so I don't mind spending a lot of time because it is going to be on one image which is going to stand out in my portfolio, or I hope it's going to anyway. So that is the final image. What I'm now going to do is flatten this. Let's just use Content Aware Fill just to get rid of these areas. And you'll see these other areas as well which I cleaned up, such as the smoke machine and that. I did that using layers. I obviously have layers where they're not showing, so I just use those in the final image. But this will give you a good idea. So I'm now going to save this and take this image into Lightroom. So this is the image that we've just imported. And all I really want to do, to be honest, is just make the veil really, really impactful. Give it a lot more structure and make it really pop. And I'm going to do that by going over to the radial filter, drawing around Demi. Now because the invert square box here is unticked, everything that I do now is going to affect the area outside of Demi, but not Demi herself. As you can see here, it's going to affect the red area and nowhere else. And all I'm going to do is make the clarity go really high, and the texture as well, maybe a little bit of the whites and the highlights here. So that there is more or less going to be the final image. And hopefully, as you can see here, even though it's not a quick process, it's a process which is very effective. So here is the final version, and I'm really pleased with this version because when I first had the idea in my head for this shot, this is more or less what I wanted it to look like. So yeah, I'm really pleased with this. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and found it useful. As always, if you have any questions, please do let me know in the comments and I will be happy to answer them. A massive thank you to both Demi and Tony for helping me to create this image. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you next time.